It's all about truth. All of it. Every single thing. All boils down to the truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now officially live. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Dan Dix. This is Press for Truth Live, the very first episode. And I am unbelievably excited to actually be here doing this right now. I can't believe we've come this far at a time in the field of independent media where I can now be sitting here broadcasting out of the PFT studio, coming right to your living room or on your device or wherever you are today. So it's incredibly exciting time to be involved in the fight against the New World Order, guys. And today, for our first show here on Press for Truth, I'm going to be having Dave Whitehead of the Modern Knowledge Tour on, and we're also going to be speaking with James Evan Pilato of Media Monarchy, because these are two gentlemen who have not only done a lot of research into this stuff, but have taken that next step and have taken it upon themselves to get involved in this fight and getting out there and getting active. So we're going to have them joining us on the program, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the new media, the rise of the new media, the very fact that we can be doing this right now with the kind of technology that we have. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that to be able to do this kind of thing, you would need maybe millions of dollars or a satellite dish or a big news truck or something. Now we can broadcast with, general applications on our phones even. So the technology is allowing us to be able to do this at an exponential rate. So this is an exciting time, guys. I want to make sure to let you know we're going to be monitoring the chat section. So be sure to get your questions in. If you have any questions for me or any of the guests, be sure to get your questions in the chat. I have, as you can see, I'm monitoring the chats right here on the side. So I'm going to try to keep an eye out for your questions, and we'll take questions from you for the guests. So be sure to get them in there in the chat window. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the applications that have been developed over time that are now being used to be able to do things like this. Here we are live on YouTube, and this is actually possible to be done right from your very own cell phone. In fact, hello Periscopers. We are broadcasting live to Periscope here on my cell phone while we're doing this live on YouTube. And, you can also use applications like Snapchat is actually another good one that I've recently been learning about. Some of you may have caught some of my work with Luke Rudowski recently in Copenhagen and some of the places we've been where we're using Snapchat, and it's been a really effective tool to be able to go through clips and, I don't have to go home and edit, and I can get the information out there right away. So if you're on Periscope, if you're on Snapchat, if you're involved with any of these kind of new media applications, well, you are becoming a part of the new media. I mean, there are a lot of kids who use Snapchat for other reasons, but these applications, we can use technology. It's just like a double-edged sword. We can use it to our advantage. And Snapchat is certainly a good one. My Snapchat is Dan Dix PFT. And if you guys want to check that out, you can check it out right now. It's at Dan Dix PFT. In fact, we did a Snapchat just last night, a quick little video to show you the breakdown of the studio, show you our preparations for trying to get ready to go live. So I want to cut to a video right now that we shot last night of just my Snapchat chat story to show you, for those of you who might not be familiar with Snapchat is, a little bit about how that works. And then when we come back from the video, we'll be joined in studio by our guest, David Whitehead. So we're going to go ahead and play the clip. Here is last night's Snapchat video. Hey there, guys. I am at the PFT Command Center right now getting the studio set up for tomorrow's live broadcast on my YouTube channel. I'm going to take you for a quick walkthrough. And this is the studio space. Currently ready for an in-studio guest, as well as a Skype guest. And this is the control center. Here's PFT's Caleb McMillan on the dials, getting ready to go live. On the other side of the room, this computer here is the one we use to queue up videos that we want to play live to go right over here. I kind of storyboarded a general idea of how I'd like to see the show go down, and we're going to see if we can pull this off. I am also going to be broadcasting this live on Periscope, and I'm going to set up this shot right here for the Periscope viewers, and I can monitor the chat right here. And this is what my view looks like, sitting right here in the hot seat. And that's a brief little tour of the studio pre-live night. If you're watching this on Snapchat right now, then you are a part of the new media. And we are back. And of course, as you just saw, if you are on Snapchat, then indeed you are a part of the new media. Whether it's Snapchat, whether it's Periscope, whether it's YouTube, whether it's any of these technologies that we have at our fingertips right now, becoming a new part of the new media is really where it's at. So right now I want to introduce our in-guest studio. We are joined in studio by David Whitehead of the Modern Knowledge Tour. Man, thanks so much for taking some time to join us here today at the PFT studio, brother.
Oh, Dan, thank you so much. I was so honored when you thought of me, and I'm really glad to come over and support you for your first live show here. I've watched you doing your show since the beginning, so to see it evolve to this point is just awesome. So thanks for having me on.
Well, I absolutely appreciate it, and the reason why I thought of you is because, I mean, there's a lot of people who understand what we're doing, a lot of people who are into researching these things, but there's not a whole lot of people who have taken that leap and actually like put themselves out there and gone beyond just doing research and actually said, you know what, I'm actually going to take this another step and do something about it. Tell the folks a little bit about what your process was from the point of first awakening to getting to the point of saying, you know what, I have to actually do something.
Yeah, that's a really key thing for me when I think back, was exactly as you said. It starts with the research. It starts with asking the question. I'd been looking into political science and what was going on politically for a while, but never through what I believe to be the proper lens, which was a real full spectrum approach to it. And when I was introduced to that by having access to people like yourself and so many others that are doing this work, it really engaged me. And then when I saw what was happening in my own backyard in Canada, I watched your coverage of what happened in Montebello, Quebec, for example, and many, many other incidents that took place right here in my own backyard. I got to a point where I said, enough is enough. I can't just sit back. I can't just sit here and just absorb myself in reading books and learning about all this. I have to become proactive. I have to actually start contributing something. And it came from a deep, intuitive feeling that said, you know what, start speaking your voice. And so I started off just sort of, talking into my phone and talking into my computer cam, expressing my opinion, and I put it up on YouTube, and then I started following up, and the researchers that I really admired and wanted to learn more from, I would contact them and start, recording discussions with them and just recording little bits. And, people really responded positively, and they started asking more questions, which led me to look into more things. And I feel like I've learned so much more by going on this journey of actually putting myself out there and expressing my opinion. And I've met so many amazing people and learned so much that I think that now there's nowhere to go but forward. I have to keep doing this because this is the time for this information to come out.
Well, there's so much to learn from so many people, and that's why it's important to continue to network and work with one another, because we don't all have all the answers. We're all in this in our own various ways. So eventually, I mean, how did you get to the point of starting Modern Knowledge Tour? And first, tell the viewers at home a little bit about what is Modern Knowledge Tour, and how did you start it?
Well, funny you should say. You were actually a very integral part of us starting it. It was a project that I worked on with my good friend Chris Rusak, and he kind of had this idea of putting, not just having this discussion on social media, but actually building an event idea where you can have people come into a physical space. We can have experts in the field come in and share their research, and then we could have the audience interacting and just get people in the room to have this discussion. Because I've always looked at it like that. I know he always looked at it like that this was a conversation that was happening, a global conversation about reassessing what we think we know about what's happening in the world around us, where we come from, why we're here. And I thought that, let's really just put everything we've got into this. He agreed, and then it just sort of was born. And we said, well, how are we going to kick off this cross Canada tour? How are we going to do it? We didn't know how to do it. We had to learn on the way how we're going to do this. And it started off with a party, and we did a party for truth, which we had you come down, and we had bands come in. We had the Honorable Paul Hellier show up, and
it was a great time. I remember. I mean, we there was a number of bands, a number of great speakers. I got to play. I got to.
Yeah, you performed music too. Yeah.
you let me get up there and play my guitar for people, so that was fun.
It was awesome. Yeah, we had martial art demonstrations. We had just a great crowd. It was in Lee's Palace in Toronto. It's like this old bar, and it was a great experience. And what it really showed us, we weren't sure how many people were going to show to this thing. I thought literally it was going to be like 20, 30 people. Ended up being like 400 something people that showed up to this party, and people stuck around, and I just saw the buzz was in the air. People were sharing what they knew. People were coming up and talking to me. Like, it took us forever just to get out of there, but that was what was cool about it. And then it gave us the momentum we needed to do our first tour, and we featured a variety of speakers. We went across the country. We camped out. It was kind of chaotic, but it was a blast. And then we started evolving the media online, and we did a few other series of events. And now it's continuing to evolve. The next event is actually in Toronto, November 28th. Yep. And
I hear you got some pretty big names.
Yeah.
Tell us, who can we expect at the next one?
Well, we got Les Stroud, Survivor Man. This event is focused on sort of an earth-conscious idea of, a lot of times we've done in the past talking about the problems. What are the problems that are facing us today? This one is very much about solutions and talking to people that are on the ground literally, and they're looking at the ecology of the planet, and they're really trying to bring in real solution-oriented thinking into this event. So, Les Stroud is definitely on the ticket. We've got some musical performances, a really good cast of people, and I suggest people go check it out at our website, which is modernknowledge.ca. All the info's there.
Well, just goes to show you, this is a perfectly fine example of how when you just take that initiative and you just go for it, and like you said, you just dove head first. You didn't really know what you guys were doing. You just started doing it. And then it caught on. People came. It's the cliche, if you build it, they will come. And in fact, that's why I have my next guest, who I'd like to bring on, James Evan Pilato, who actually started his own media monarchy, his own empire as well, essentially. And we have him joining us now on the line. He's here joining us. So James, thank you so much for joining us here in studio here on the first PFT Live, brother.
Yeah, we got technical difficulties. No audio for a second.
Now, unfortunately, James, I'm not getting you through the speaker here. I'm going to hopefully see if my control room can figure out how to get you onto the speakers here, because I'm not hearing you right now. Do we have him on? You can turn up the mic. I'll be able to hear him in there. But anyways, James, why don't you tell the audience, because I don't think I can hear you right now, but they can. So why don't you go ahead, tell the people a little bit about, how you got involved. We've been talking here with Dave a little bit about the new media. Coming from a point of doing research to a point of actually doing something and wanting to get out and say, you know what, I've done a lot of research. Now it's time to take it upon myself to do something. How did you get to that point?
I guess I actually did it the other way around. I've been involved in radio since 1995. I worked at a non-commercial community and college radio station back in my home state in West Virginia, and started as basically an 18-year-old, and then after a couple of years I was the music director and pretty much kind of ran the station. So I was the music director of this radio station when 9/11 happened. So after 9/11, I started to then see all the documentaries, all the things that were coming out. And it's crazy, even if YouTube was not around, we were downloading things and of course, file sharing. But it was starting to watch those documentaries and seeing those things and really starting to dig into it. I started to take the audio off of them and play them overnight on the radio station. And I just started to kind of experiment with putting that kind of different information out. And basically, I moved to Portland, Oregon in 2005 and kind of found myself, in a new place where I didn't really have any connections. So I started a podcast, and I basically started Media Monarchy as a new show that originally ran live at a local kind of pirate internet radio station. It used to be called the Portland Radio Authority. And so I started to do the show there weekly and live, and I think, like a lot of things, you'll find just being consistent with it. After a while, you suddenly go, oh, damn, I've been doing this for a while. I mean, that's the crazy thing now. I mean, James Corbin and I just realized we've been doing New World Next Week for 6 years now. And actually, you know, Media Monarchy just had its 10th anniversary. So I guess to answer your question, yeah, I think I kind of went around it the opposite way. I've always been involved in making media, whether it was radio or playing in bands or theater. It was only post 9/11 that it then had the push and it had a reason behind it, I think, if that gets at what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, well, you mentioned James Corbett, who's another champion of the truth movement here. You guys are running a program, I think it's weekly. How did you get hooked up with James?
I literally emailed him in probably 2007. I think he started in 2006, and because I was so voraciously involved in all of it, I was listening to tons of podcasts, tons of shows, and checking out everybody's sites. I think I sent him an email and said, hey, buddy, like the show, keep it up. And it started from there, and at some point when I started to cover more food-oriented news, and I coined Food World Order, and I sort of started that as a new blog to just kind of cover food, health, environment news, I think that kind of sparked with him as well, and he had me on as a guest on an episode that he'd then titled Food World Order. So it was around then, that time, that he said, I'm thinking about maybe making more videos, and I should do a regular show. So he kind of put the idea out there, and I think I kind of came up with the conceptual stuff and named it New World Next Week, which is actually, if no one knows, it's a riff on the Council on Foreign Relations podcast called The World Next Week.
Oh, yes. Okay, very good. And so as I understand it, I mean, where are you going from here? I know you've got some more things coming up that you're working on. And for the audience at home who wants to maybe learn more from you and you guys, where can they go to get involved with you and what you got coming up?
Well, I actually just kind of reset MediaMonarchy.com. It's still a little bit under construction, but what I did was take all those sites, like the aforementioned Food World Order and all the other areas, science, technology, the occult. I used to have different blogs for all of that, but I've put them all now into one main website. And long story short, in 2012, I actually put that regular Media Monarchy live broadcast on the back burner because I went to work. I got a job as actually an executive producer of a nationally syndicated talk show. And I kind of wanted to take that opportunity to go work for old media because I'd never actually done it. I'd only ever really done radio in pirate and non-commercial ways. So I wanted to do it, and I basically did it for 3 years and finally decided it really wasn't for me because it ended up kind of driving me nuts, and I realized I wasn't doing media anarchy. I'm giving, this company my all that ultimately doesn't really care about it. So I think I basically can tell you, one, the inside track is old media is totally desperate, and that's why they basically take everything from the internet. That's why when you watch your local news now, they're just playing funny cat videos off the internet. It has nothing to do with giving you news about your town. They're trying to imitate the internet because we've been kicking their ass now for many, many, many years. So I basically took the plunge and kind of crazy, and I'm actually, a little freaked out about it. I quit my job in July and have basically been gearing up to sort of relaunch Media Monarchy. The idea being that if I can get just enough sort of recurring monthly support, that Media Monarchy would be my main gig. So in addition to doing, like I've always done, New World Next Week, every week, I also make a new music podcast called Pump Up the Volume. Pump Up the Volume being a huge influence on me, the Christian Slater movie about pirate radio broadcaster from 1989 or 1990. So in addition to being able to do those shows I already do, I want to start making Food World Order episodes about all the things I've learned about cooking and organic living and all those ways that I learned from kind of being in a place like Portland, Oregon, that kind of you can get into all of that stuff. I also worked at a rad kind of organic grocery store when the food revolution was kind of happening at the same time the economy was crashing, and it really was kind of ground zero of what was going down in the food and health world. So the idea is basically if the support is there, I can make Media Monarchy my full-time gig and basically put up new content every single day. So MediaMonarchy.com/support. I mean, the ideal is 1,000 people giving me $1 a month, and it's, PayPal or Patreon or snail mail or Bitcoin, and any of those ways. It's all up on MediaMonarchy.com/support.
Exactly. It's such an easy way for people to be able to contribute. I mean, a dollar a month from about 1,000 people is nothing. I mean, people out there are spending that much on coffee every day, not even thinking twice about it, So that's just fantastic.
And I would say that I put my money where my mouth is. I try and donate to the non-commercial outlets that I support that have enriched my life, and who, I'm thankful every day that they're there, and that I know they're not a propaganda tool trying to sell me garbage. So hopefully, 1,000 people giving $1 hopefully shouldn't be that big a stretch.
Mm-hmm. Well, essentially what it is that we're doing here, yourself, Dave, myself, we're trying to combat the mainstream media. Essentially, we're trying to counter their spin. Dave, seeing what James is doing and what we're doing here in the studio today, I mean, how do you feel it's going for the mainstream media, the old dinosaur media of old? How far along are they until being completely nothing? I mean, we used to be called alternative media, and now we're kind of called the new media. Eventually, we're just going to be the media. How far away do you think we are from the old dinosaur media completely dying off?
Well, I know from having spoken to people behind the scenes in media in Canada, some of the biggest media companies here, that they're panicking. They're trying to find every way possible to try to maintain that level of constant viewership and support, and they're actually borrowing from us. They're borrowing stories. They're not going as deep as we are, but you can see that they're talking a little bit more about these subjects, and they're still putting a bit of a slant on it, but it's getting more traction because that's what people want to know. It's not even like we've laid a great foundation, and people like yourself and James, you've been doing this a lot longer, but the thing is that people now, they want to know. They got a little taste of it, and they know that they're sick of the fake newscasters. They're sick of being lied to. They're sick of the information being massaged in a particular direction. People intuitively know something is up, and so they're going online for their media. They're coming to guys like us and like you, and the real dinosaur media there is, I think they're absolutely petrified of what's going on now.
How about you, James? Are you getting a sense that the dinosaur media is starting to realize that they're on the decline and that we are potentially a threat to their empire?
And again, I think from within it, it's almost like any other job. There are basically tons of layoffs, people getting pushed into positions where it's like, hey, we fired the guy that used to do that job, so you're going to do his job now too. And you're going to go, oh, okay, because I need my job. It's almost just as squeezed as every other kind of industry around. But I think, unfortunately, they're not going to go away entirely. They're just going to consolidate and sort of solidify. And I think that's something, and again, I sort of saw it from the inside, that the biggest thing now that's happening is it's all kind of coming down to just making sure everybody's having the same couple of conversations, that we're all just kind of talking about some tragedy, some political theater thing, and some goofy internet stuff. That they know they've pretty much lost control, and they're trying to sort of rein everyone back in. So I think that's why you sort of see the solidification. You get to a point now where companies, Apple used to make cutting edge, technology. Now they're just, okay, we give up, we're a radio station. I think they basically have sort of panicked, and they've all gotten into sort of the content game, because they know that in some ways that's the only way they're going to survive. So they're not probably going to go away entirely. And I would say that, it's the McDonald's and those kind of places that are going to go away before the, Clear Channel and some of those kind of places are. That's
a very good point, too. We're not only dealing with the propaganda that's brainwashing people about, the economy, the New World Order, the secret societies, how our lives are being run, but also the very food that we're eating, our bodies are getting sicker and sicker, and the foods that we're eating are getting more and more just unhealthy, and it's just not fit food to even be eating. So what are your thoughts on where people need to go in regards to healing themselves? I think that's one of the important things too when it comes to fighting the New World Order. If you want to take these sorts of things on, you have to heal yourself before you can even think about trying to heal the world. And if you are physically not well, that's going to be difficult to do. And this is why the New World Order keeps people down on pharmaceuticals and GMO crap in the food and chemicals in the air and fluoride in the water. But we are starting to transition away from that. People are starting to wake up. So we're seeing an awakening of the political awakeness of what's going on geopolitically, but we are seeing an awakening as well about how we're being poisoned with our food too. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. The whole thing behind the health crisis that we see happening around us, that's a huge alarm. And I think a lot of people are noticing that, where it used to be that, how many people you knew would have something like cancer or type 2 diabetes or have some kind of heart condition. It was a lot more rare in the past. And when I speak to, my parents and my grandparents and their generation, they didn't see the same level of barrage of this type of disease running rampant in the world around us, especially, more flus, more colds. So people just on that front are now more aware that the problem is getting worse, even though all this money is going into these big pharmaceuticals, and they're consolidating just like the media is, and the same with the agricultural community, and everybody's more aware of genetically modified foods and the water and everything else. So people are putting two and two together organically, and now they're seeking other forms of alternative views on health, and that's what I find encouraging. I teach martial arts for a living, and the people coming in now, they're not just wanting to learn how to learn martial arts. They want to learn how to live a healthy lifestyle, how to have a healthy mind, a healthy body, a healthy spirit, to have some kind of motivation here. So I feel like our job is to help empower people and motivate them to become self-sufficient. And when we're talking about freedom, what does it mean to be free? What is it going to take to have the freedom that we're looking for? Freedom starts within. Freedom starts with you living your life according to your own code, your own methodology, and not just always following what everybody else is doing. And we see more people doing that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is continuing the momentum of this awakening.
Absolutely. James, you got anything to add on that on the food front?
Well, I think I would just say that's almost been the area that we've been most successful, because I think there's a line from a band called Fugazi, never mind what's selling, it's what you're buying. So I think in a lot of ways, the way that sort of the alternative media has sort of changed, just as you were talking about, Dan, I think went from being a really aggro, screaming and yelling at everybody 10 years ago to now realizing, oh, that's not where it's at. The biggest change is going to happen in my fridge and in my medicine cabinet. And when you start to kind of make those moves first, you do become, when you see in the plane, it's like, well, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you can help anybody else. So in some ways, it's sort of cleaning up yourself. And for me, again, my girlfriend, longtime partner, Cassie's been a huge influence and help in just the health. And like I said, been working at that grocery store for a long time and quitting smoking many years ago, now 3.5 years ago, and starting to run and pretty much having just kind of an organic lifestyle. That's been a huge way, and I think a huge, way that we've been winning.
Yeah, very, very good point. And maybe that's, since we have momentum in that area, maybe that's a good area to continue. It always is. Health is of the utmost importance. Now, I have a question here from the audience that I'd like to field for both of you guys. We have a question here coming in from Happy Harry online, and Harry's asking, have you guys ever thought of uniting forces with other alternative media like AMTV, USA Watchdog, etc., and creating a union of some sort? I've had this question posed to me a number of times about the concept of joining forces with various alternative media and forming some sort of a union or a centralized place where we can all send our info to. I have my thoughts on that. Dave, what do you think about Happy Harry's question here of getting together onto a unified kind of a collective with alternative media joining forces?
Well, good question, Harry, and I think that it comes from a place of wanting to see people working together. I see that there is kind of this sort of behind the scenes kind of bickering that takes place a lot. We notice that, and then there's sort of these divisionary things happening, but I think that honestly it has to be a unique expression. Dan, you started this Press for Truth concept from your passion of being a good journalist, and that was your approach, and you wanted to get on the street and approach it that way. I had my approach. James, you had your approach. And I think it's cool that, like, I have my show, Truth Warrior, and I work with organizations like Modern Knowledge, and I feel like I'm unified with these people but I still think it's important that we keep a semblance of self-expression in this. That's what makes us different than the mainstream. The mainstream likes to have a brand. They like to have everything clear-cut, easy to follow. For this one, I think it has to be important that we have diversity of expression, because do we want a society where everything is just one thing all the time? That's where the controlling elite want us to go, clearly. If we're going to rebel against that, it's going to be imagination and creativity and bringing your own uniqueness to it. That's going to be the biggest fight. And then what you can do from there is then unify with the other encampments on the field, so to speak. That's what I think.
Very, very well said. I mean, I would have to agree. There's a huge importance when it comes to working together and networking. But as you said, I've been involved in this for years, and when I first tried to launch things, you would often get, different ideas on what solutions ought to be, different ideas on what the problems actually are. Right. And I eventually realized, the bickering and arguing kind of led to nowhere, and I realized if I'm going to get anywhere in what I want to achieve, I'm going to have to go on it my own, and I started Press for Truth. Not to say that networking and working with one another is not important. We have to do that, absolutely. But I think it is also important to maintain your individuality as a journalist, as a YouTuber, as a blogger, and to maintain that and not have to answer to a central authority or any kind of a union. James, have you ever been posed with this question of the idea of, I mean, you've linked up with a number of people. You work closely with James Corbett. What's your thoughts of this coming together more as a collective?
Well, first I'd say hat tip to Happy Harry for the pump up the volume reference. I think I don't know if I've been posed this question specifically before, but I think, we're all kind of in agreement. I think decentralization, it's got to kind of be where it's at. I would worry that anything like that would just sort of lead to more bickering and sort of who's going to be on top and who's going to be in charge. But like you said, I mean, I think that is the amazing thing now to sort of think, 10 years in, that some of the dudes that I was first in contact with, I think about Doug Owen at Blacklisted News and James Corbett, people who I've basically never met but have been in touch with, and I know they're legit because the work has always been there, and that, year after year, I know they keep slogging away at it because I know their heart's in it. So in that way, I am connected to those dudes and can reach out kind of at any time. And you're growing and trying to make even more connections, and you realize the people who, you work well with personality and workflow wise. And I think you'll kind of naturally build those bonds like we're able to do, doing this right now. I would say, however, a big-ass convention with everybody would be fun, even if we all kind of got together just as a big kind of get-together party. That I would be down for.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'd be down for that. Maybe we should be the ones to go ahead and organize something like that, and just throw that together. And like you said, I mean, you and I have never, this is our first time actually ever having an interview together, ever kind of talking with each other. But after watching you for years, it was a no-brainer. I knew exactly that you're on point, you know what you're talking about. And so it was a no-brainer, and I knew this was gonna work out great. So James, just in closing, this is the rise of the new media. That's kind of the title of this video. And you do have something coming up. You're about to launch. Hit us up with the links one more. Let people know that for the folks at home, James Evan Pilato has been doing fantastic work. If you're not familiar with his work, you really ought to be. So check the links in the description for all of his links and to where his show is coming up, where you should subscribe for at least $1 a month to show him your support. So James, let them know where they can go to support you.
Thanks, buddy. It's MediaMonarchy.com/support, and that's got the links to PayPal, Patreon, Bitcoin, and even our P.O. box here in Portland, Oregon. I think really the simple thing, it's hard when we say subscription because that almost makes you, that you're getting something otherwise you wouldn't be able to. You can always get everything. Everything is for free, and it always has been. I think the idea is that I've never tried to make this my main gig. So I think that's really the difference is, I'm going to do it with everyone's support, as opposed to it sort of being something I kind of did on the side and when I was able to. So that's really the only difference. The idea is more that it's kind of a fundraiser and kind of a donor drive, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a fantastic idea, and I really, really hope people go check out the links and show you some support. So once again, brother, thanks so much for taking some time to join us today, and I'm sure we'll have you on PFT Live maybe sometime soon.
My pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
Take
Great
care.
to talk to you, James. Nice to meet you, bro.
You too, buddy.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So once again, ladies and gentlemen, James Evan Pilato has been on the scene for a number of years, doing his own show, and it just goes to show that when you put yourself out there, when you just dive in, you can have success. And James is a fantastic guy, and of course, Dave is also walking proof positive of this. So, Dave, in closing, like, where, is this going to go from here? I mean, it can go anywhere, really. The future is wide open. We're really at the fork in the road of alternative media taking off. There's so much potential. What do you think the possibilities are in the next few months, in the next few years, for the future of new media?
Well, there's definitely going to be a lot of things to report on, that's for sure, as things are accelerating around the world, and there's so many things to cover. I feel encouraged that I'm seeing more people getting on the road, and they're filming their own videos, and they're expressing their opinions, and they're joining this conversation, and I like to see that. So I think it's really unlimited. We have these tools, like you were mentioning in the beginning of the show, Dan, that we've got these social media tools. We can reach people. If you go where people are, it used to be you'd have to go to the city square and try to get up on there with a microphone, and then usually people throw tomatoes at you. Whereas on Facebook, all you really have to suffer is maybe a couple thumbs down, or people don't like your video or whatever. And on something like Facebook, even though we don't really like the kind of controls and the surveillance aspect, what is cool about it is that companies and media companies that are throwing millions of dollars at advertising on Facebook, it doesn't get the traction because Facebook is full of real people that are watching this. So if the product isn't coming across organically, if it's not really working for people, then they're not going to support it. So there is an advantage to just a regular average person going out there, and if you've done some credible research and you have good facts and information to share, bring it with some passion as well, then you will reach people, because that is what's going to go viral online. And we've proven that. Many of your videos, Dan, have gone viral. I've had many of mine go viral. Low production cost, easy to do, easy enough to do. So I think that the potential is unlimited. We got to do it now before they try to centralize the internet even more.
Well said, man. I mean, that's exactly it. This is happening, and we have to decide on what side of history we want to be on. This is going to continue to happen, and like we said, now is the time to get involved. So, just in closing, why don't you tell the people the links where they can find you? We'll put them in the description here, but let people know where they can find you and also how they can get involved with your next tour.
Great. Well, to learn more about Modern Knowledge, you can check us out at modernknowledge.ca. For my personal work and my show, you can really just find me on YouTube. It's the best place to go. So if you just put in David Whitehead, Truth Warrior on YouTube, you'll find me. My YouTube channel is Sensei Dave 82. And you can also find me on Facebook. I post there regularly, and I've got some really good people on that page. So really, I'm just on social media, and I feel like I'm reaching a lot more people there than I ever have in any other means. So that's where you can find me.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that just about comes to the end of the show. In fact, Dave and I are not quite done. We are, in fact, going to go into overdrive, and we're going to do another hour right now for the Dan Dix Show, and that is going to air on Monday, this Monday, on talknetwork.com. You'll be able to catch the extra hour here with me and Dave for the Dan Dix Show. Again, that's going to be airing on Monday, so stay tuned for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in to the first ever broadcast of Press for Truth Live. I hope we were able to field your questions on the chat, and I think consistency is going to be key. So we hope to see you right here this time, same channel, next week. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for joining us.